Well, welcome back to mid-Norfolk and a beautiful October morning. It's the 2nd of October 2022 and come with us on a brief tour of this garden while we show you some of the best bits that are still giving us some incredible colour at this time of year, and will hopefully continue to do so right the way through to the end of this month. October can be a very variable affair really in the UK. Some years we'll get away with some really lovely, warm, what we usually refer to as an Indian summer day. And other years it can be damp, cold, misty, foggy, cold weather with hard frosts and everything dying back. But this garden is still resilient and full of bud. And hopefully with a bit of luck and good weather, we'll continue to enjoy some of these beauties for the next 4 or 5 weeks at least. This giant sorrel's really showing the benefit of being cut back or dead-headed late. It dried out completely with the drought earlier in the season, but just look at this little flush of these upright held flowers coming out of the fresh growth that's resultant from being hard cut back in this border. This was a mass of oxeye daisies, peonies, and it really overgrown very badly with the drought we had here earlier in the year. So it was well overdue a good hard cutback, but just look, it's worth doing. If we can get away with a bit more warm weather, this should continue to flower quite nicely now. Same's occurred with this, is it Cerium, Cicerum? I always struggle with the name of this one. I always call them flowering thistles, and they're a sort of genus of plants. They're quite widely available now, but again, from a good hard cutback earlier in the season, this one's come and is rewarding us with these lovely upright. Don't know how to describe that colour, I'll be honest. Is that a red? Is it a cerise? Is it burgundy? Is it purple? It's called Neopurpurum, so I suppose the clue's in its name. What a cracking little flower, and a nice form of plant as well. Just look at the crown of this, upright lime green leaves with these spikes and flowers coming from the leaf joints. Really nice healthy little plant. Gives a wonderful big display of flower earlier in the season, but this second flush, well worth having. October's definitely the season for asters. We've planted out quite a few different colour combinations here. This one is a new variety that we've purchased this year called Nova Belgai Marie Ballard. What a mouthful. Don't think I'll remember that for more than 5 minutes, but it's a sweet little thing. Lovely mauvey blue. I've got some more just around the corner to show you as well, which are really a little bit further on. These 4 plants, the same genus, Asters, short stocky variety. This one, I haven't got the label still, so I don't know the name, but hopefully it's given something slightly more memorable than the last one. Beautiful purpley mauve colour, plenty of flower, held really nicely above the foliage, and plenty more bud to come on. One just to its side a little later. Don't know whether it's a different form. I suspect it is, as that might be the full flower as open as they're going to become compared to this one, which is a lovely full double. Just goes to show that even within a species you get quite a bit of variation if these have been grown from seed as opposed to divided from roots. But this should form a really nice little low fence just in front of the Ethel rose, which has been tied in really tightly above. And hopefully next year should give us that real burst of flower. Quite a late one to flower, Ethel. Usually end of June, beginning of July. Making our way round the corner of the new barn brings us to this area of the garden which we've shown you on multiple occasions during its construction this year. The old swimming pool site. Now the quadrant garden, 4 beds divided into equal rectangles, planted in June and July this year with pot grown and divided specimens from around the garden. Isn't it looking good? This bed, the one closest to the new building's been the most problematic to get stuff established in, because just due to its position and access, it was the one that took all the machinery and compounding really. It's also the deep end of the swimming pool, so there's an awful lot of hardcore under this. It tends to be a bit more heavily clay in its base, which was a bit of pot luck in terms of what ended up where. But it's getting going now, and it certainly stood very, very well. Just look at that verbena still flowering beautifully, and delphiniums in October. I suppose that is partly down to the late planting of a lot of the specimens in these borders. They're still looking great. Just behind me on the very unloved little border behind the old pump house is this tall aster that we've grown for years here, just coming into its full and best display of the season. It doesn't give you a repeat flowering. This is a single one-off flowering. Most asters won't do anything you've cut back. It's a very late flowering plant, and this one grows to around 6 foot, so it's a bit of a thug and certainly needs underplanting with something more at the back of the border, but the sheer size makes it spectacular, and the flowers themselves, when you're close up, no scent, don't seem to attract too much in the way of insect interest, but there's enough of them to give this real distance display, almost as good as a rambling rector. That's not rector coming through it, it's actually Kiffsgate improved. It's looking a little soft, but I think it's looked that way all season this year. Hope it's okay, but just look at the volume of growth it's putting above this shed. Certainly not held back this year, and next year, if we don't prune any of those, which I don't think we're going to because I can't access them, to be honest, just look at the volume of flower we had this year with those hips. Well worth keeping, and I wouldn't want to deadhead them at all. Should all be repeated the following season if this one hasn't got anything wrong with it. I don't suspect really it has. But for an unruly part of the border and garden, it's not looking bad for this time of year. Blackberries got going in the back border. Bird food, I say. All the better to attract the wildlife into this garden. More asters planted in the back here, along with the roses. Lovely colour one, that. And some good news on the front of this old classic rose that we've moved twice now and dug up with a mini digger, but look, thought I'd successfully killed it, gave it the time it required, and just look at that new growth coming away. Beautiful old thing, this. I will look up the name of the variety. We did film this a couple of years ago. I called it then Comte de Chambord, but it's not that rose. It is one we identified through Peter Beale's catalogue as a very old variety going back to, I think, to 1906. And this one had probably been planted in the back of the old barn gardens for most of that period, I should think. Hopefully going to do well and grow away as a large specimen in the back of this new rose border. I was watching the videos we made here in April of this orchard absolutely filled with spring bulbs and daffodils and narcissi in here, with the bird song and dogs walking through. Looks very different at this time of year. It's come back completely green after being strewn back and the hay cleared. The orchard itself in heavy fruit this time of year. Look at this tree behind me. Probably a Bramley seedling. I didn't plant this myself, got no idea exactly on a lot of the varieties, but the way it's formed, this tree's never fruited particularly well or created large apples. These are about the best we've seen on it. There's a lot of rot, a lot of bird damage, but it's producing a good deal of apple for the geese at the moment. We're picking up all the fallers. That's what the orange buckets are for, going round, and the geese, when they see us coming in one of those, get really excited. One of their favourite treats at this time of year. This is the quince tree just tucked behind the rambling rector rose. filmed this earlier this month. Still no scent to them at all. Sitting quite firmly still, forming beautifully little fur-covered fruits. Plenty of them. Really attractive tree. The weight of them just pulling these boughs down to form the natural habitat of this tree, which is arching, as you see here. Still hopefully going to keep those in place for around 3 or 4 weeks. If this weather continues, then we'll hopefully get away with it. I hope you've enjoyed seeing this little tour of this garden and orchard. If you'd like to see the progress and it change over the years, do subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.